So the Harvard Business School, coming from there, we're extremely enthusiastic about the case method. But the case method, it has a lot of benefits. The students find it engaging. They sit on the front of their chairs. They interact with you. They disagree with each other. They debate. But over time, over a series of sessions, it's somewhat difficult to build sort of cumulative frameworks. There's sort of a 80-minute session. You open it. You achieve closure during the session. And you can do it somewhat through course design. You can build cumulative frameworks over time. But it's certainly not the same caliber of framework that you would get with a more deductive approach, where you're going to the people who have thought about this the most thoroughly, and you're laying it out as a completely fully developed theory. So there's some problems with cumulative frameworks. On the other hand, if we go with what I'll call the textbook approach, but you could also call it the theory-based approach or something like that, where it's a more deductive approach, where you begin with the theory and then try to get the students to apply it. Whereas the other approach begins with the cases and tries to get students to derive the theory. They don't know what it's called, but it doesn't matter because they use the ideas. They don't know it's Mintzberg's theory that they're talking about or Williamson's transaction cost theory, but they're very fluent in the ideas when it works well. So we've got these kind of two approaches, both with good points and both with shortcomings. And it sort of made us think, in terms of parameters of a solution, can we cover the essentials of IT management as a business subject, preserving the best elements of the case method and active learning, while extending the forum to allow better development of cumulative frameworks? In other words, to solve this problem with the difficulty of wiring together a framework over a number of cases, avoiding death spirals, and engaging a generation of digital natives for whom technology is an essential part of the world, who have grown up in settings in which people have competed for their attention with narrative and interactive media content, and, by the way, an interesting problem too, who have different degrees of technical preparation. So we come up with this, what you might call a novel-length case series. It's 18 cases. We retain the active learning approach, going with the sort of iPremiere semi-fictionalized approach. These are longitudinal, so they facilitate cumulative framework development. We can start talking about something, return to it 3 chapters later or whatever, and over time, over the life of the story, develop a cumulative framework. Students get to know the characters, they get invested in it, they walk in the shoes. It's officially fictitious, right? In that same way that iPremiere is. Almost everything in the story is something that we've encountered in a real setting. And it covers the essence of what we thought were the main business topics that need to be covered in this kind of a course. I want to bring you up to date on the rough outlines of the story, and that's going to position us to do IVK 10 as a case discussion. We've got a financial services firm here. It has been small. It's no longer small. It's been growing extremely rapidly. They've really shot off the charts. They're in some sort of a lending and loan securitization business, although we don't ever go deeply into exactly what business they're in. But suddenly they experience a slowing of their growth. That they've been growing too fast, the S-curve starts to bend over and level off, and this, of course, causes all sorts of consternation. The market is not looking like it's saturated, but for some reason their growth has leveled off. Profits fall because they're spending like crazy trying to keep up, and then when the revenues level off, the costs increasing take a bigger chunk out of the revenues, and they don't start losing money, but their profits the return on sales drops quite a lot. Profits fall, stock price falls to half its former value to reflect the discounting of future earnings that aren't going to happen or future revenues. The board of directors replaces the CEO. The new CEO's job is to get things back on track. He is framed specifically as a turnaround CEO, a tough guy who's going to come around and whip this company back into shape. And that all happens before the story begins. And we hear about it in the early parts of the book or the case series. As the story begins, the CEO is installing Barton as the CIO. Now, Barton is a senior vice president of loan operations, and when he enters the CEO's office, he thinks he's about to get the chief operating officer job. And so he's horrified to be given the CIO job instead, and it's partly because they think he can fix it, that they have a lot of confidence in him, and they know that IT needs fixing. But he has no technology background, and also, as Shannon said, he has a history of making fun of the IT department, that he actually has been very sarcastic about the approach of his predecessor. He has even, in fact, criticized his predecessor's ties. He thinks that his predecessor wore absurd business ties that kept him from being taken seriously. But he does take the job. He decides not to leave the firm. And in the early part of the story, he encounters, when he's out for a jog in Boston Commons, he runs into his predecessor, who tells him, you're going to be toast soon also. He says, the problem is with this organization, it's a basket case, and he says to him, you won't last a year, I predict. And so the challenge is then, the gauntlet is thrown down, the challenge is joined, and so on. And that's what he's going to at least try to do, is survive the year. In his first meetings with his senior team, he has difficulties getting on the same page with them in terms of setting up strategy for the department. But he does begin to learn the IT chart. He makes this sort of abortive attempt to become technically competent when he goes to a Borders or a Barnes & Nobles and buys $1,200 worth of books, so many that two people have to help him get the books out to the car. He's also being asked by his new CEO questions about the cost of IT, which he finds he can't get very straight answers to. That he asks simple questions and gets very complicated answers back. The complicated answers have to do with things like the IT budget, the overhead allocation, all this shared infrastructure that they're charging back to various departments with very complicated formulas. And it turns out that there's just one guy who designed it all and nobody else understands it. There's a discussion as well of the value side, debates many of his ideas about how to value IT's contribution to the business. So we get to IVK 6, and we're heading to IVK 10, of course. And that one is about project management. He hears about a lot of different approaches, philosophies that are being debated inside his organization, and he doesn't know what to make of any of them. It's agile versus traditional, and so on. IVK 7 is about a bold decision he makes to fire what he sees as a non-performing vendor, but it's also really an opportunity for him to do something decisive. Then he runs into this problem with priorities. He learns that there is a security upgrade that the company should have invested in and did not, because the priority setting system, the investments, the system for investing, for deciding the priority of various IT investments has malfunctioned, and he discovers that he caused the malfunction. He, in his role as the SVP of loan operations, wanted a project of his approved instead of the security upgrade. But it turns out that should have been approved, and now that it's Barton's problem, he's worried about this. However, at the same time, he takes another decisive action. He takes complete control of the IT budget, saying we have to do some stuff quickly, against Maggie's advice about putting his neck alone into the noose. In other words, if he takes complete control of the IT budget, he's the one on the line if something goes wrong. But he does it anyway. And in IVK 9, he has his sort of crowning triumph. He's about 4 months into his job as a CIO, and he presents his IT value framework. This is the thing he'd come up with in IVK 5 to the board of directors. He'd presented it to the senior team before, and the CEO told all the other members of the senior team he wanted them to do what Jim Barton had done. So he sort of got used as a positive example. And his reward was to present this to the board of directors. That went extremely well. He made a real connection with a board member, such a good connection that he realizes he's starting to make the CEO nervous as a sort of competitor, perhaps, because he was seriously considered for the chief operating officer and might be a successor at CEO. So things are going extremely well for Jim Barton. He's scored a series of victories, and he's beginning to think that maybe this CIO job is not so difficult after all. So let me set up the case discussion here. And you've read this, it's in your packet, but let me just sort of remind you of some things. So it's 9:24 a.m., and Barton is in New York City to meet with Wall Street analysts, and he's going to explain a vision that he and the CEO Williams have worked out together that they call a lean service factory. The idea is this has been an entrepreneurial company, meteoric rise, but too informal. We're going to preserve our agility, but we are going to become much more professional in how we run it. And he's going to go tell this story to Wall Street. And he's there in a hotel having breakfast on this day when he gets a call from one of his managers. IVK is under attack. Call center systems are down. The website is experiencing a DOS attack. Emails are arriving 3 per second. And they say, just one line in the subject of the email, they say, gotcha. So it's gotcha, 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 gotcha. Does not look accidental. Sets up a 10-15 meeting with his team. Then the legal counsel calls. Legal counsel says you have to take dramatic action. You have to shut everything down. What matters is what we can say in a deposition. So very helpful advice. The CEO calls. He's angry, but he does leave Barton alone to manage the situation. Just before the call with his team to talk about what's actually going on, Barton takes another call from the CEO, this time with the legal counsel on the line. The legal counsel recommends that he not talk to his team about the problem. Why? Because he's going into an analyst meeting later that afternoon, and they have to be very careful about what representations he makes in the analyst meeting. That there's a sort of a two-pronged difficulty there. If he's not truthful, or if someone can later argue that he is not truthful, then they've potentially got very serious legal difficulties. On the other hand, if he's too truthful in the wrong way, the stock price, which has begun to recover, takes a serious dive, and they're set back again, and who knows what happens after that. The idea is that if it is a security issue, it's best if Barton doesn't know that for sure when he speaks to the analyst. So he can, entirely truthfully, look to the analyst and say, we don't know that it's a security issue. We think it might just be a maintenance problem or something. But Barton objects. He demands to work with his team to solve the problem, and the CEO lets him. So over the protests of the legal counsel, the CEO lets him. And then we begin to figure out kind of what is known. Well, we know that there's been a DOS attack. They discover that a database index file appears to have been renamed. Nobody knows how or why that might have happened, but that's the source of customer service systems being down. Once they fix it, everything goes back to operational mode. What we don't know is what exact software should be running on production systems, so we don't know whether an intrusion has occurred. We don't know if there's anything left behind inside. No particular reason to think a DOS attack should cause an intrusion or that they should go together. But one of the staff, Ripley, recommends playing it safe, shutting the company down for several days to investigate, rebuilding production software from development files. The rationale being we don't know what's supposed to be on there, so we have to play it safe. We have to rebuild the thing from development files. And of course, he has another problem too, which the clock is ticking in the analyst meeting is at 2 o'clock, and he has to figure out what he's going to say there. And that is where we begin. I want us to try to put ourselves in that place. I want us to imagine what it might be like to be Jim Barton at 9:24 that morning, coming off a string of victories, riding very high. The CEO has given you this special assignment, and then you get a phone call, and everything starts to unravel. And my question really is, well, what do you think this feels like? What do you think this feels like? Say it again.
He's panicked.
He's panicked. So we have panic setting in. We're not quite sure what to do. What else? Disbelief, panic, disbelief. What else? Yeah.
Ambiguous. You don't know what's going on.
So sort of lack of knowledge. And how do you think you handle that information? Do you want to believe that you don't know what's happening? Do you think he wants to know?
Yeah, he wants to know with more clarity how bad is the shift.
So yeah, so lack of knowledge, especially about how bad is this. It could be nothing, it could be everything, right? At this point, you have no real clear idea. What do you want it to be? You want it to be nothing or everything?
You want it to be something that can be managed.
You want it to be something that can be managed. You are, if you like, maybe wishful thinking about the situation. You want it to be something you can manage. What else?
But his personality is to be a man of action, not to freeze. And
Yep.
everything else we've seen doesn't hesitate to make decisions quickly, and he demonstrates that in this case again.
Decide, take action, do something, right? So this urge grabs you, do something. It almost doesn't matter what it is, right? And in fact, the legal guy kind of says this too for a different set of reasons, right? That we have to be seen to have done something forcefully.
But before that, Barton wants to know what is really happening, because till now he doesn't really know what is going on, and so get more information at that point of time.
So Barton is not just going to succumb to these panic, these disbelief, this wishful thinking. You're suggesting he's going to try to control the situation. He's going to try to figure out what he knows. So we're going to do sort of an inventory here. We're going to figure out what we know, what we don't know, or at least we're going to try to do that, right? What I want to know is, what do you think they should do here? Because they don't know, I think, right? What do you think they should do here? Christy.
I think they should probably spend a little bit of time framing up what the solution can look like. Like, do we want to maintain honesty with the outside world? Do we need a solution that minimizes downtime of the company overall? So maybe shutting everything down can't be part of the solution. So I think his team needs kind of a framework to work within for what their search for a solution can look like. And I think that has to come from the CIO, because the people, kind of doing the work and investigating the problem might not know the boundaries for their solution. It could be a terrible idea, even if the team thinks so, to shut the whole thing down for 3 days while they try to figure it out. Maybe they need to be told that and bring up some other kind of.
So you would not shut the company down in this situation?
I would, but I would want to start talking about what are the parameters with which we need to work under.
Yep.
Do we need to be completely honest? Is that part of our culture?
Well,
with externally, do we need to have a solution that keeps something up and running?
Yeah, but the clock is ticking here, right? So I mean, I'm going to press you on this, because that's the MBA answer, right? It depends, right? Are you going to shut the company down, or are you not going to shut the company down? What are you going to do?
I don't think there's enough information to know that yet. I mean, it's one person and the team sort of rallying around this one particular answer. I think I need 10 minutes to.
Okay. 10 minutes we got. Yep.
I think we have 10 minutes to say, I don't like that answer, because the parameters you're falling within are assuming that it's okay to shut a company like this down. What if that wasn't okay? What other options are there? I mean, I've been surprised a number of times when I've said, I don't think we should go in a direction that takes us, where we're going to shut something down, or our customers can't do that. We can't do that to our customers. You end up with other solutions that come out of, other people. We could do this instead. Okay. Thank
So there might be a middle way. There might be a third way, or something that we haven't thought of yet. And so we got to be sure.
Not up for that.
Yeah, before we do something hasty, we got to be sure there's not a better way. Mohammed?
I think there are, some political dimension involved. So for figuring out the solution, the boundaries of the solution, you have to negotiate with different,
Negotiate with who?
Negotiate with CEO, negotiate with negotiate with other actors like the consultants.
So you're going to decide what to do by sort of assessing with the CEO and the lawyer.
Well, as he said, I mean, it's not just a technical problem. It's not a clear-cut problem that you can't say this is the problem and you have to solve it in this way. This is, different actors will see the problem from different sides, and
Yeah. So might you choose? So assume that your staff is saying, and your staff is saying here, right? In this case, they're saying we should shut the company down.
For consultant, the problem would be really magnificent. But if you look at it from the CEO side, the problem wouldn't be like that. You have to. It's the process of negotiation to come up with the best solution.
So you're saying we got to do some second order thinking here. We got to figure out what the CEO is going to be able to live with.
Stronger than that.
Say it again.
Stronger than that. I happened to, by accident, was at McNeil days of the technical poisoning incident, and the chairman didn't negotiate it. The chairman opened with, I can almost hear you when I think of this. He opened with, first thing, nobody else dies.
Yeah.
Second thing, we try to save the company. But the first thing, nobody else.
So you're not going to take a survey. You're going to make some sort of an action here. Yep.
By saying, what are your values? Is your value maintaining long-term shareholder wealth, which is real? Do you want the best possible outcome on Wall Street today?
Yeah, yeah. Now, but nobody's poisoned, nobody's got guns here. But, yeah.
Actually, you made the case, you wrote the case, so you know it better than I do. But this is a financial services company, and I can be looking at $2 to $15 million identity thefts, the impact on the economy, even if nobody loses money, loses 1,000 hours of their time. This is huge.
Steve, did you want to get in? You're trying to get in.
The very same space, which is, to me, you've got 3 decision points to make. You've got to deal with the CEO, you've got to deal with the analyst, and you've got to deal with the technology. But we focus on the technology decision right now.
Yeah.
And I think we have to go with the reverse order.
Okay.
And I'm back to the CEO position, which is, I think you have to go to the CEO and say, so you got 2 choices. We're not going to know in the next hour or 2.
Right.
We're just not going to know. My staff thinks this is a huge risk. And he's going to have, and I think Barton's going to have to decide what he's going to recommend. And this is the MBA in me says, well, he's a smart guy, he'll make a decision. But I think Barton has to take a choice and say, this is what I think we're going to do. And then the second thing he has to come to him and say, and by the way, here's what we're going to tell Wall Street.
What I want to do, I want to spend just a moment. I want you to sort of grab the person next to you. So, work in groups of 2, and I want you to spend the next 5 minutes just composing 1 or 2, maybe 3, even 4 sentences if you need it. And we just want to go into this analyst meeting knowing that we can handle certain questions. And one of the questions we might need to handle is something like this. Your website was down this morning, and I'm hearing rumors of some sort of a problem at IVK earlier today. Can you tell us what happened? So I want you to spend the next 5 minutes, I'm literally write it out. Write out what words you're going to say, and talk to somebody near you. Work in a group here. I want to hear some suggestions for how we're going to handle this question.
Are you going to try to get to a consensus on what action they should take?
No, I'm going to ask for a vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the options are going to be what?
So far, we have only 2: shut down, or
good.
don't.
Okay.
Because we haven't. I mean, we've had a couple of middle options, but they're a little bit. I don't think they really form up yet.
Okay.
Amazingly, nobody has raised. Almost always, when you teach this, the mirror site option comes out right away, and it hasn't today. If it had, I would put the 3 options up.
Right.
But
well, that's fine. And so,
but you'll have a 3rd option when you pass out 7. Yeah.
So you're not going to let them invent an option at this point. So you got two out, and
if somebody insists, I might. If somebody says we should add a 3rd option, but I want to know what I want to make sure it's well defined. I don't want it to be sort of we'll just kind of analyze things every night for the next with pizza.
Right. Right.
But
hopefully you don't get a waffling, in between, because you should be able to get them.
What seems to me they're lining up, though. It seems like they're lining up on shutdown. Yeah, which is where you wanted them.
That's
right?
where I want to be.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that what you've just done now, though, you've got them. They played the game.
Yeah.
They have been engaged. They are now in the shoes of Barton. Okay. And so we've already won that part. Mm-hmm. So I can go, what I want to do is to just get them to really now walk in the shoes of Williams.
Okay. 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 Let's pull it back together now. It sounds like I know everybody may not be done yet, but I know a number of people have told me that they are. So let's see if we can compose something collectively that's going to work at the analyst meeting. So who wants to start? Who wants to give us something to put up on the board here? All right, we do have a CEO in the room. Yes, we do. So, Karen, what do you got?
I'm not sure I have it all, but okay, we would begin with the fact that there had been a denial of service.
No, don't tell me what you would do. Tell me the words, right? Yeah, the exact words.
We've had a denial of service.
Okay, so we have had a denial of service attack.
Please forward it.
Please stop.
So which we successfully stopped.
Yes, we're cleaning the system now.
Yeah, it's not stop.
So All right, wait a second. We're going to pick on it in a minute. Yeah. But wait a second. So we successfully stopped. Yeah.
Cleaning the system now.
We're cleaning the system. Yeah.
And there's no indication that any data was shipped out.
There's no. There is no indication. Yeah.
And we have
That no indication that any data.
And we have our own spyware. We're down for an hour, and when we are back up, it will not be possible to ship data out without detection.
Okay, so and when we're is that where you, when we're back up. Okay, when we're back up.
It will not be possible.
It will not be possible. Yeah.
Ship data out
To ship data out.
without detection.
Out without detection. This part is going to be real popular with the hackers, I think. Yeah.
Which is to protect us with the lawyers. We are not saying we are without risk, semicolon. We are just, it's just that the risk we now face is less than the risk of someone stealing archival tapes from any company's vault.
The risk is less than tape stealing, archival, etc. Okay, I'm out of space. But okay, so we have here, we have had a DOS attack, which we successfully stopped. We're cleaning the system. Now, there is no indication that any data was shipped out. When we're back up, it will not be possible to ship data out without detection. We are not saying we are without risk, just that the risk is less than if someone stole one of our archival tapes. What do you think? What do you think, folks? Like this one? What?
Sounds like you're pretty guilty.
Sounds guilty. Why does it sound guilty?
I'm worried about stuff leaking out instead of saying I'm already taking care of it. I've begun to answer questions that weren't asked.
Exactly.
Oh, too much information. Too long. Donna, go ahead.
So same thing, too much information.
Yeah.
You gotta be a lot more perfunctory than that.
You're going to be in there for 2 hours, and you think they're going to let you get away with everything's cool now. Can we please talk about last week's share price?
So, is there a way you would modify that? Can you modify it to fix it, or is it? Okay, go ahead, read it. Yep. So I'm not going to try to write it down, but read it out loud.
5 sentences. We were experiencing some problems today with our computer systems. Our team is working to resolve those problems. We believe that we will have things resolved shortly. As far as we know, none of our data has been compromised. We will continue to investigate. One of our principles of operation is to protect customer data.
What do you think?
That sounds much better.
I would go with Karen.
You would go with the first one. Why?
Because, at least it looks like we're totally in charge. Nothing has happened. We know what we
I just want to do
So let's hear from Les. Yeah.
Just want to make sure I understand Donna's team's solution. You're going to continue running now. You're not taking it down. The only correction I'd make if you're going to try that line then is there's no evidence that information was because if you say as far as we know, that's opening your throat.
And the Jim cannot make the decision about running or not running. That you come from CEO, so you cannot say anything about whether they will stop it or not stop.
Well, we would assume that they would reach some sort of agreement on that. Yeah. Go ahead, Bruce. Yep.
You're going to join Martha Stewart.
I know. Wait a second. So
Said there's no evidence.
he just said there's no evidence. Yeah.
The fact that your indexes have been compromised and your directories have been compromised, you can't say there's no evidence.
Actually, to understand what Bruce said, no evidence is both that you get killed on deposition because it's offering a legal opinion. But more than offering a legal opinion, to say there is no evidence, you've looked at everything. If you say,
okay, as far as we know.
No, Bruce is saying. Bruce is saying we do have evidence. You're liking, as far as we know, is looking a lot better. So one of the things we did when we taught this at Copenhagen Business School is I gave everybody a sign that said sell. All right? And whenever they heard certain words that made them uncomfortable, they went like this, right? So you're walking a fine line here. You're trying to stay out of jail, but you're also trying to get keep the stock from tanking. And you're saying, as far as we know, sounds like sell signs coming up, right? I want us to vote. And I want to vote on the what are we going to do thing. I want to see where people are lining up. And right now we got 2 positions on the table. And I know there's been a couple of others that came up, but I want to sort of keep you to and we're not going to be able to sort of vote on what we say things, but just in terms of what you think they should do, the shut down or not shut down. Let me see how many people think we ought to shut this business down. This is the play it safe, do the right thing crowd.
So a day, but not.
No, we're talking. No, this is the option that Ripley has recommended. We're going to shut the company down, rebuild the systems from development files. So it's going to take 3 to 4, maybe.
Not terminate, shut down the systems, not shut down the company.
No, although it will have major repercussions for the company. Yes. So we're going to shut this production systems down for 3 to 5 days. Who's going to advocate that? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14. How many people are going to hope for the best? Leave the systems up, do whatever analysis we can, but we're hoping for the best here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So very evenly split. Very evenly split. Okay.
This is what actually happened, okay? And so if you would read the case, okay, and then take about 10 minutes to read the case, and then 10 minutes to break, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss this case, all right? Okay, let's just do a quick recap on IVK 11, and just kind of review the bidding. We know that IVK has experienced a denial of service, right? We all know what that is. And Rob described that as kind of knocking on the door, the front door. We don't know at this point from the case. They went through what you guys suggested in terms of now looking at this and gaining more information and trying to do analysis of what was going on. And the conclusion is we don't know whether there was an intrusion. Okay, we don't know whether they actually got into the databases. We have this kind of suspicious situation where one of the files, the name was changed, but they cannot actually, nail that one down. That why? Yeah. So we also know that IVK has not invested appropriately in IT security. Okay. So in terms of the fiduciary responsibility of the senior management team here, there's a real exposure. We don't know. We know that they haven't done what perhaps has been prudent here in terms of ensuring that the intrusion was adequately protected against. Now we also know that it's impossible in today's world to make that 100% risk-free, right? There's some good security stuff around, but there's also some very talented hackers around as well. And the world of operating on the internet here is only about 10, 15 years old. So that still is an evolving area. So the IVK team, we know, has not found any conclusive evidence of an intrusion. Now, what we had here between do nothing or play it safe, which is to take it down, you guys were, what, 13-12 in terms of the vote. Okay, that's pretty close. But what they did is they looked at the do nothing alternative, play it safe, which is shut down the network. Okay, again, this is the Tylenol solution, is that there is evidence here. It's kind of suspicious, and if you're going to play it safe, you're going to shut that thing down, because if you believe that there was an intrusion of which you cannot, say that there wasn't, but you can't say there is, but there is suspicious kinds of stuff. And if you take the Tylenol solution, which is, hey, gather all the stuff back, take it off the shelves, clear the shelves, destroy it, and start over. And there the objective is that what we're doing is we're really building trust with our, with our customers here. So the play it safe there is shut down the network. They say a couple days, it's 5, 10 days. Mark pointed out it's it's $1 million a day. Their turnaround situation. They're a financial services company, as you described it. And so if they do this in today's world with identity theft and all things that are going on here, they could have a serious, serious problem in terms of their stock price. People might get panicky. So shut down the network to further analyze, set up a mirror site, notify affected customers if possible identity theft. And then the other one is, third, is keep operating here until a mirror site can be set up. Kind of an in-between option, but it's not the Tylenol solution. You're not really, in terms of values here, you're not really going all the way. And so there's some concern there. But the idea would be set up the mirror site, then cut over without any business interruption. Now, what happens is, of course, is we got Barton, who is working fairly effectively, it appears, with his staff, trusts them. They got a good working relationship. The staff comes back, unanimous here, which is play it safe. All right? Barton says, okay, makes sense. He accepts the recommendation to present to the CEO. And despite, misgivings. Okay, now on Friday, the work's done. Barton has kind of internalized the decision. Barton calls the CEO. I'm ready to meet. 4:30, calls the CEO. I'm ready to meet. And the CEO comes back to him, and he says, sleep on it. Sleep on it. Then he calls a meeting on Saturday at 8 o'clock. Okay? So that's a recap. And then what happens on Saturday? Goes well. Goes as well as expected, Steve? Okay. What actually happens here as we kind of, unfold this thing?
The CEO gets very nervous.
Okay. Now, what is the behavior of the CEO here? Rational? Irrational? Well, let's start off.
Strong will.
Okay.
He clearly wants to make a point.
Is a CEO listening, Steve? He's not listening.
No,
Okay.
He didn't hear what he wanted to hear. I don't think that's not listening.
It's autocratic.
He's having a psychotic episode.
Psychotic episode. Okay. So what does he do? He goes around, and he asks for the recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, we ask for the recommendation, and then he asks for the board's reaction. The board unanimously supports it.
Yeah.
And then having gotten all this input, he completely ignores all of it and says, no, we're not going to do that. I was brought in to build this company, and then he just follows his own...
Well, he does some other things too, doesn't he?
Well, he fires
two,
the legal counsel who says, well, at first he rejects the suggestion that they shut down for 2 days. And then when legal counsel jumps into Barton's defense, and one other manager, the manager who'd taken over, I guess.
You're right. You got the lawyer who says what?
Right.
But it says the very important thing is contradictory with my ethics. Right? Yeah, the lawyer says.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
So that really is against the CEO.
Does he have a point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially here, he does have a canon of ethics. And, ultimately, if it goes against that, he is right. He won't have a job, right? He could be disbarred. So he says essentially, okay, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. Read your employment contract here, and kind of a nice, this is a Bruce Rogo kind of line, actually, I will come after you, and you won't even be able to live in a double wide, right? Yeah, right, okay. Why did the CEO, do you think, did what he did? Don?
Well, I think there's a few things. I think he felt he had a mandate or direction when he took the job. His position was at stake if he didn't do something like that. He was concerned about where the stock price might go and what ramifications that would have on his position. And then the last one that I thought about, or we talked about, is really the position in the industry. They are not the primary player. They're a second or third tier kind of player in the industry. And something like this could actually really hurt it very significantly.
So it essentially could hurt the company, and in a serious way, is what you're saying. The second or third in the company. Yeah, Doug.
I think too that he is a little bit like Cortez when he hit Mexico. Cortez, he burned all their ships and saying, look, you're going to win or you're going to die. He burned it. So I think that's what he was doing, is saying, look, I'm going to turn this around, or we're going to all go down in a blaze of glory together. Now, whether or not that's right, again, the morality of that, I don't know if you could say it's moral, but I think that was his position, is look, I'm all in to turn this around, and anybody that's going to stop me from turning it around is on their way out.
Again, the man had a mandate here, or the perception is, he's a turnaround manager. He came in to turn this thing around, that's what he said. And kind of, the mentality is Cortez in Mexico. We're all in this together. Got it?
Actually, but that's a flawed analogy. If I buy what you're saying.
No, I didn't say it. No, Don said it. Or Doug said, I'm sorry.
Pushed farther than he did.
Oh, touche. Good, yeah.
Here's where I have a problem.
Okay.
He's a turnaround guy.
Yeah.
He's an all or nothing guy. He can say, some companies are just so bad they can't be saved. The team I inherited couldn't pull this off. And he doesn't get anything for pissing this thing up from $14 to 18. He takes it from 14 to 80, he's fine. He takes it from 14 to busto. He goes and gets another job.
The thing I find the most curious about this whole episode is that Barton tipped his hat a couple of days beforehand and gave him what was clearly an uncomfortably and hasn't given him anything different. So Williams has had a chance to think through what he's going to do if he hears this again.
Yeah.
He went to bed that night before going, so I know it's behind door number 1. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
The first time I heard it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to like it the second time I hear it. I'm wondering what's behind door number 2, and if there's nothing behind door number 2, I've already got my decision, which is we go on, right? So his mind is already set up.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. Let me ask you another question then, Steve. Along that line of reasoning, did Jim Barton, the CIO, effectively manage his boss?
No, he didn't, because what he did, he had a nice walk away. He walked away from a bad issue with a nice cover, which is just trying to give you the bad news early kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he never really gave Carl 2 choices.
So there was no second door that he could open.
The second door was, it's going to cost a lot. We're still not sure, and it may not work.
And here, what we have, I guess, following along that reasoning, is that Carl Williams gave him some clues, right? Sleep on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be sure.
Yeah, be sure.
He's already tested him once. Is this your recommendation? No, this is just a suggestion.
Yeah.
I think Carl actually said, "Don't give me that one again."
That was the message.
Right. That was the message. Or if you could, that's choice number 1. Choice number 2 better be pretty good. You got some smart people. You say, "Give me a choice number 2 that I can live with."
Yeah, Arvin?
We were thinking that the Jim Bart meeting with a kid in the bar,
Yeah.
because that has something to do with it.
Okay, so there's also some interesting other advice, isn't there? Okay, there was Friday night. And Friday night, what happened?
Well, he met this kid.
The kid in the bar, okay. What did the kid in the bar say?
Well, there's not much in the case, but the question is whether the kid knew anything about the attack.
Well, what did he say?
Or he was behind that attack.
What did he say to him?
Well, he said just follow your gut.
Yeah, follow your gut. And did he, what else, anything else?
And he said that don't recommend anything to CEO that endangers his turnaround image.
Yeah, I said, isn't there something to the effect, knowing Williams? Don't do anything that will upset the turnaround. Donna?
Well, but Barton also didn't listen to Maggie.
Yeah, right. What did Maggie say?
Maggie said, don't do anything drastic. Moderation, a reasonable middle option. So.
No, this is typical of humorous, so they always are like Hyman, they could walk.
So, coming back here to Steve's point, give him a second door, right?
Well, that's right. Well, and again, as Steve said, he knew Williams wasn't going to like this one. But maybe all that's okay. There's a part of me that says this is, I may not agree with it, but this is how Jim felt. But on the other hand, Williams had to do what he had to do as well.
Yeah, his responsibility is to the shareholders and to the board. They brought him in to turn around the company. What is the right decision for the shareholders at this point?
Well, given that they have no evidence that there's a problem, I think they need to keep moving, and maybe
he shuts down the company tanks. Hey, thanks. I just lost, yeah, right. I just lost all my stock. You're fired.
I had voted for the safe route initially, but I flipped on that, and I think the CEO made the right decision because in looking at the risks, there are huge risks on both sides, but the risks on one side are kind of certain. The risks of shutting down, he knows what those risks lead to, and the risks on the other side are all hypothetical.
Yeah.
And these are the other risks that we haven't talked about of, will they bring that site back up again? They shut it down. They don't know that they can do that.
I want to come back. I want to go over here to Bob.
Yeah, well, he gave everybody a chance to have their say. He wasn't shutting off venues. Then he said, here's my decision, we're going forward. And then he had two people that said, I can't go along with you. Sounds to me like they're saying, I resign. If I can't go along with the decision you've made. So he gave him a chance. I disagree with the thought that he shut down all of his advisors.
Yeah.
Because he listened, but he said, no, I'm going ahead. And they didn't accept his decision. So it's pretty clear.
Don?
I agree with that. The only thing I've changed in it is I probably wouldn't have fired him in quite the dramatic way he did. I would have said, meeting's closed, I need to talk to you in my office.
Yeah, right.
You would have taken care of business after that situation.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I just made a very public statement that if you don't agree with me and you bring me bad news together, because
yeah. Well, let me make a transition here, and kind of move into a plenary discussion, because what our intent was to kind of tell you what the problem was we worked with, then kind of what we were trying to do with the IVK initiative, and part of that is engagement. Was engagement of the students, get their emotions even involved in the thing. Know these characters. Walk in the shoes of a CIO for a year. That's what we're really trying to do. Live that decision so that they empathize and now are in, Barton's position. That's what it was that we wanted to accomplish. The other thing from a pedagogical standpoint of this particular, the 10 and the 11, one of the things that we were trying to accomplish is, which we didn't accomplish in this group, but we accomplished it with the undergraduates in fall. What happened was in fall, unanimously, the undergraduates went for play it safe. They debated, they thought about, the issues, they thought about values, they had an incredibly rich, discussion. And then, what we did is we voted at the end, said, okay, this is what needs to be done. And then what we did is we handed out the next case. So what we were doing there was attempting to get people to commit on one course of action, which kind of made sense, but then we wanted to flip it for the students to walk now in the shoes of other players. In particular, we wanted to walk in Williams' shoes for a while. Why'd he do what he did? And what happens, of course, when you do something like that is that the students had already committed to one course of action, and it's really difficult to get them to say, well, walk in the shoe. Why did he do it? Keep coming back to that until you finally get an understanding of this from his perspective, and whether it is kind of flawed, but kind of understanding who this character is. This is the guy that's playing the role. Okay, you can't change him out. That's kind of the way the world is right now. He can change you out, right? So how do you think about these kinds of situations? And that's a dramatic thing, for students or for any one of us to in active learning is to kind of, really come to a conclusion over here and then get to the other side and take the other position, which we think is very important for effective managers to do here. I want both Rob and Shannon to come down because this was a team effort, and there's some really interesting other things that we would like to, share. One of the things that we did with a longitudinal case study, and I'm going to let Rob describe this, but what we have now is the students are hating Williams. I hate this guy. Man, I mean, how could he do it? I mean, how could he puff up and do all this stuff? They hate him. Now, what we do in a longitudinal case is we can lay out kinds of issues, and we then can kind of talk about why did he do what he did. We come back to IVK 17, and in IVK 17 here, this is kind of the near miss, right? I mean, this is the gun on the mantle, and this thing's about ready to shoot Barton, and he comes very close, right, where he's about ready to fire him, but he ducks the bullet. So he survives, and then in 17, there's a discussion, and kind of share that. But what is the title of that case, Rob?
It's about risk management. Mark, yeah.
Isn't there a discussion that should follow here? Maybe there is about what Barton should do in response to what's just happened. I mean, please tell me that follows.
Yeah, no, I think that is. No.
Back to the bar.
Oh no. In IVK 12, he has a conversation with Maggie about whether he ought to stick around, and the concern is he has a concern in conversation with Maggie that he might be being kept around just so that he could be fired later if something then does go wrong. So he has a feeling that part of the reason he didn't get fired in that meeting is because he's the scapegoat in reserve.
That's right.
And
but now 17.
Yeah, well, 17. Yeah, it's a discussion of risk management, and so it's really a chapter about what kind of company is this, and when you've got a company, some companies have to take risks, others can play it safe. And this is a company that's trying to grow very aggressively, and they have a conversation. This is Barton and Williams, and their relationship has improved. It's several months later, but they have a conversation about taking risks. And in the course of the conversation, they do a lot of analogies to poker. So yeah, Barton's telling this story about a poker game he was in once, and he had an absolute best hand for the game. But the cards came up wrong and he lost. So he bet really big. The cards came up wrong and he lost. And then later in the same poker game, exactly the same thing happened again. He said, I made the right decision, but I got a bad outcome. And he said, that happens sometimes. He says, now the flip side happens too. He says, sometimes you make an intentionally risky decision and you get a good outcome. And he says, but you can't do that very often. He said, like that decision I made back, not to play it safe. That I had a weak hand. I took a chance, and we seem to have won that one because nothing does unfold over these series of months. They don't seem to have any other.
And intentionally, we leave that in, because you could speculate in there that it's a time bomb, and that thing can go off any time, and makes the students uncomfortable, but they should be uncomfortable. I mean, that's kind of the way it is.
So Barton gets kind of a different perspective on this at that point because he realizes that where he thought Williams had just lost it in the meeting, he in fact realizes that Williams made a calculated decision to take a risk. Another longitudinal thing that we're able to do is when we get to IVK 13, it's about how companies deal with emerging technologies. And it's similar to what we were talking about this morning, that it's about Web 2.0 and blogging. And it turns out that somebody in the customer service group has a blog and blogged the outage. Mentioned on the blog this outage. And
the day of the outage.
The day of the outage. So if you go back in the blog to the day of the outage, he mentioned something happened and he made a couple jokes about viruses or hackers or something. And these guys discover it 2 months later, and the question becomes, do we go try to get this guy to take it down? Do we, what do we do? I mean, the way we've written this, we don't necessarily tell you at the end what they did. You decide what.
Well, and it also, like the blogging thing, the problem with the current cases that we teach, a lot of us teach these Harvard Business School cases or other cases, is it's a self-contained kind of thing. So you got to learn the company. You got IBM. You got to learn the company, got to learn the business model, got to learn the structure, and then in an hour and 20 minutes you have a discussion, okay, about what the issue is. And that's a lot of setup, especially for undergraduates, okay, that have to understand the business model. So the longitudinal cases, we have a lot on the company, but not a huge amount, but you can understand their stock price, and the whiteboard, he starts tracking the stock price as he's trying to understand value and the relationship of IT. And what we can do with that is we can capitalize on that investment. So by the time we're in the middle, you're really talking, you're using very efficiently the time of the class to talk about the managerial issues.
The IVK series is available for classroom use. Visit the IVK Initiative website for information about how to download and use the series. To learn more about the IVK series curriculum and teaching resources, please visit www.uwtv.org to see the companion video, Engaging Digital Natives in Information Technology Learning. The IVK series will be published in book form by Harvard Business Press in April 2009 under the title The Adventures of an IT Leader.